What's up? Welcome. What's up? Welcome into the Hoge Jahns podcast brought to you by Miller Lite. We're back with you. Day 2 of this jam-packed week of content leading up to this big game between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. You ready to go, Johns?
We get a break from the quarterback conversation
I know.
for a little bit.
We talked so much about the offense and quarterbacks yesterday. Today, we're shifting to the defense, and we're going to jump in right away with Bilal Nichols, who had an outstanding season with the Chicago Bears. And Bilal, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. How's the start of your offseason been so far?
Thanks, guys, for having me. But it's been good so far. I've been able to get back home and be with my family and, be around my loved ones. This season was a lot different for us this year because we couldn't really be around people too much, due to COVID and things of that nature. So, it feels good to finally be able to see my loved ones. I haven't seen them since before training camp started. So, this is a good feeling. This is a good way to start the offseason off.
Well, let's start off with the big news, at least defensively in Chicago. Chuck Pagano has retired. Sean Desai right now is your new defensive coordinator. What do you expect from Sean? I know you guys call him the Doc. How much are you going to miss Chuck?
I'm going to definitely miss Chuck. On and off the field, he was a great guy, great coach. He brought it day in and day out, and he gave us everything he had. But I'm definitely excited for Coach Desai. He's a guy that I've known ever since I got to Chicago. Always been a high football IQ guy. Always been a guy that prepared, and he knows his stuff. Point blank. Period. That's why we call him the Doc, because he's so smart. He knows everything. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and I'm happy that he finally getting this opportunity.
It seems like, Bilal, that so many people have great things to say about Sean Desai, and yet I don't know that the fans know a whole lot about Sean Desai yet. Certainly, he's been in Chicago for so long. He's learned under 3 different defenses, basically. What do you like about his philosophy? And I understand he hasn't necessarily been your position coach, but what do you think is going to be his flavor to the defense?
I think he's going to have a very similar flavor to Vic Fangio. I think for us, you'll see a lot of similarities with our defense this year versus our defense in 2018. I think you're going to see a lot of the same similar type of schemes, the same similar type of plays being run, because he's a Vic Fangio disciple. So he's going to bring that type of energy. So we're excited about that. I can't wait to see. I can't wait.
How about his demeanor? Every time we talk to him, he's so calm, collected, and so thoughtful with everything that he tries to explain to us about the secondary, specifically the safeties. But you've been around him for 3 years. What's his demeanor going to be like? Do you see it being like Vic Fangio, who was kind of cool, then he had a fiery side as well?
Yeah, no, I feel like Coach Sean Desai, what you see from him from a demeanor standpoint, that's who he is, and I think that's who he's going to be this year. We're confident in him. We know he's the right person for the job. So he don't got to be anybody but himself. That's what got him to this point so far. So I'm excited, but I think you're going to see a calm dude. But one thing about Coach Desai is he got you schemed up. So so it's going to be interesting to see.
Bilal, another big change, specifically in your position room. Jay Rodgers moves on to the Chargers. I've considered Jay to be one of the best position coaches there is in football. How much do you credit him for your success, what he's taught you, and how big of a loss is that going to be for you guys?
Man, a lot of my success so far in this league has came from Coach Jay Rodgers and the vets that I've been blessed to play with. He from day in, from my first day becoming a Chicago Bear, he's been on me about the little things, the details, the technique, and, a lot of the plays that I make, and a lot of the positions that I be in to make those plays are a credit to him. I definitely think he's, if not the best, he's one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL. So, we're going to miss him. But at the same time, we're excited about Coach Rump, and we can't wait to get started. And we know he's a guy that's been around, and he's been around for a very long time, been in different places. So, he's an experienced guy. So I can't wait to learn from him. And I think as a young guy, just seeing the different coaching philosophies, that'll be good for me. It'll be able to show me a different side that I ever looked at things before.
Well, what was the mood like amongst the defensive players after the season ended? I know you get into the playoffs, you feel good about that, but then you lose to the Saints. Like, what's left for you guys to prove? Like, what's left for you guys to accomplish? You guys got all pro players, caliber players at all three levels, but how maybe angry are you guys about how things ended this season?
We were really frustrated. At the end of the day, we are playing in Chicago to win a Super Bowl, and we didn't accomplish that goal this year. So it's frustrating as a player when, that's the goal, and that was the standard set for us, and we didn't reach it. So we more frustrated in ourselves because we know it's a lot of areas we could have been better, especially in that particular game. So it's one of those things where we're frustrated, but we know the talent and the caliber of players we have on this team. And next year we got to make it happen. We didn't make it happen this year. We got to make it happen next year.
Bilal, what were those couple days like after the loss to the Saints? It seemed like there was a lot of silence. I know we were all wondering what was going to happen. I think at one point your teammate Akeem Hicks tweeted, "Does anybody know what's happening?" What was it like for the players sitting there in like that 48 hours after the game, wondering maybe what direction the Bears might be going in?
Yeah, it was different. It was an anxious time because nobody knows anything. You kind of just waiting to hear what's going to happen. You waiting to see what's going to happen. And but at the end of the day, you have to just take a deep breath and sit there and reflect on everything you've done this season and how you could be better. I know that's what I did. I took those couple of days instead of making myself anxious about what was going to happen. I just told myself that reflect on how you played this year, where you could be better at in certain areas, and how can you come back next year as a better player.
So how do you think you played this year? You had your first interception, a career high in sacks. You played some nose tackle with Eddie Goldman out. Like, how did 2020 go for you?
I think it went well. I think everything that I went through in the off season as far as training, pushing my body to new limits, it really paid off for me. I feel like, those type of things, just that work ethic that I had, that's the standard for me, and it paid off well for me. There's definitely a lot of areas I could have been better at. There's definitely a lot of areas that I sat down and watched all of our games as soon as the season ended, and there was notes I had from each game on where I could be better at certain areas. I'm never content with my position. I had a pretty good season this year, but it wasn't good enough. We didn't win in the playoff game. We didn't win a championship, and I could have been better. So, I just hold myself to that standard. But at the same time, I'm proud of myself, but I still realize it's a long way for me to go.
So when Stafford gets traded out of the division, you bum because he's the guy you picked off this year, right?
Nah, I'm not too bummed. He's a great quarterback, so I was able to make a play on him, but he made a lot more plays on us. So, a guy like that, that's good for us.
Yeah. Hey, last question for you. I just want to ask about the game this weekend. You guys had success against the Buccaneers, and I know that there's been some talk in Tampa. They looked at that game against the Bears as somewhat of a wake-up call offensively for what they needed to figure out to get better. What worked against the Buccaneers earlier this season? Essentially, how do you beat the Buccaneers?
First and foremost, they're a great team, especially offensively. They have a lot of weapons. They have a lot of different angles they can hit you from. I think the biggest thing with us was getting a Brady. I think that is the way to control the game. If you can get the time and make him feel uncomfortable and just make him feel the pressure, I think it'll give you a lot of opportunities to make a lot of plays against that offense. He's obviously the GOAT. He's probably the best player to ever play the game of football. So a guy like that, you got to really get on him. You got to really pressure him. You cannot make him feel comfortable because when he feel comfortable, that's when he pick you apart. So I think that'll be the biggest key for that Kansas City defense.
Bilal, thanks for the time. It was fun watching you play this year and make the jump that you made, and looking forward to seeing what you can do next year as well.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right, there he is, Bilal Nichols, Bears defensive tackle, who, man, you look at some of the positives from the 2020 season. He's right up towards the top, along with Roquan Smith and some of the other young guys that really took a jump.
An outstanding third season, just like Roquan Smith, and they're from the same draft class. When the Bears drafted Nichols, they thought he had Pro Bowl potential. I know that's a lot ask of a fifth-round pick, but the size was there, the athleticism was there, the handwork was there, the nastiness was there, and Jay Rodgers got that out of him this year. I think he's going to miss him a little bit.
And don't forget, they give Jay Rodgers credit for scouting him too. For they always have the position coaches look at the tape, and Jay Rodgers really had some great things to say about Bilal before the Bears drafted him, and of course did a great job developing him. So that's something to watch as we head into 2021. Well, it was fun talking defense. It was also fun earlier today. We had a chance to talk to Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network, who's a big Bears fan, as many know, Chicago native. We had plenty of fun talk with that and a whole lot more, including roller coasters. The whole thing got weird, but here he is, Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network. Okay, let's bring in Kyle Brandt. Of course, you know him as one of the hosts of NFL Network's Good Morning Football, which airs Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Central Time. And, of course, he has an awesome podcast, too, called 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt, which you can find on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere you find podcasts like this one as well. Kyle, what's up? We can see you're a giant Bears fan. We already knew that, but you're representing today. What's going on?
It's great to be here, Adam. I got my Bears hat, and should my mood change mid-segment, I can go here, and then I'll be here, and then if I get too hot, then I can go to option 3, which I have here, and I also have the GSH on the back. So I have all kinds of Bears gear, and here's the thing. You talk about all these teams all around the country, and you talk to Kansas City or Pittsburgh or Tampa. I don't have any of their gear. I got this stuff. I got so much Bears stuff. So I was waiting to bust this stuff out. I'm so happy to be talking to 2 Chicagoans so I can wear my stuff out. And I got boxers on. I got socks on, all kinds of Bears stuff.
So let's start with the Bears. What was it like watching this season? We covered a roller coaster, I thought, like 3 different seasons almost. You got Mitch Trubisky in the start, Mitch Trubisky at the end, and a Nick Foles 7-game segment in the middle. What'd you think of it? How'd you process all of this?
Well, you said roller coaster, so that, of course, takes me to Gurnee, hallowed ground of Six Flags Great America, where I spent a lot of time in my childhood. Sometimes I would even go and get what's called a Twicket, where you could come back the next day for like $1. And if I was to describe on the top of my head the Bears season to a classic Six Flags Great America roller coaster, it'd be the Shockwave. I don't even know if that's still there. It was blue and white. All right, Shockwave was like one of the estate pieces of Great America. I mean, it was like right up front, prime real estate. And here's the thing, though, like it would go up and up and up. And it would, at the beginning, there's this incredible climb, and it's 5 wins in the first couple months of the season. We're all doing boom and club dub and everything. But holy crap, then it goes down fast. And then it comes back for some loops. I think there's consecutive loops over the parking lot. That would be the description for the Bears season. I hate talking negatively about the Bears. I don't like doing it about any team, but especially the Bears. I'm proud. I grew up with Walter Payton bed sheets and the Super Bowl Shuffle cassette tape. I love that stuff. I don't want to. And yet all this year when it would come up and what we would do, it was an exercise in agility and not talking negative, because it wasn't just they were losing. It was just so flat, and the offense just didn't have anything, and the occasional spots here and there. But I don't know. I guess I'm answering your question in a roller coaster of an answer itself. It was a really, really weird, unique season that inexplicably ended. The Bears went to the playoffs, and you're like, oh, that's a success. And I feel like it almost would have been better if they didn't make it in a weird way. It's a strange description, but man, it was a strange season.
See, the problem with Shockwave, though, was when you got off that ride, your head was banging around. You had you feel it 24 hours later, something was wrong with your neck. That's kind of what this Bears season did to everybody, too.
It's true. The Shockwave would rattle you. And I think I look at some of the other roller coasters, at least from the 80s and 90s. I feel like the first Nagy year, the 2018 year, was like your starter roller coaster. There's one called the Demon, where it was for like 12-year-olds. Like, you were on a roller coaster, you're gonna do some scary stuff, but like it's not gonna blow you away. It's not Batman, it's not Iron Wolf. That was that pleasant 2018 season. Didn't rattle your neck, but a fun ride and positive things to come. Well, they never got on Iron Wolf, and they stepped backwards, and they were on the Zipper, or where something was called in 2019. Or right now, you know where they are? They're on that thing that rises up and like goes to 360 so you can see the whole park. It's not really a roller coaster, but it's more of like, wow, there's this, there's that, because they're evaluating and they're saying, what is the landscape of this Bears team and organization? So they're on that thing right now. And when they come down, I hope they have answers.
So let's use that analogy. You're up there, you're going around, you're looking for quarterbacks, right? You saw Matthew Stafford leave the division. Jared Goff is here now. So you're looking, Deshaun Watson is out there. And then, eventually that's going to drop. So how do you want this to play out? Do you think they got a shot at Deshaun Watson? Like, how do you feel about this whole quarterback carousel going on?
Well, I get asked, as I'm sure you guys do, whether it's by, my dad or someone in the produce section, socially distanced, of course. And they'll be like, so honestly, like, who's the Bears quarterback next year? I mean, that's an entry-level conversation. That is a simple question if you're talking about the Bears. And I honestly say, I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Mitch. I can't possibly conceive that they're going to have it be Nick Foles. So then you're talking about it's a rookie or it's like someone they grab for another team. And obviously it's not Matt Stafford, and I don't think it looks like a rookie either. To answer the Deshaun Watson question, I don't know, man. I mean, like, they don't exactly have a pocket full of gift cards that they've been waiting to spend, and here comes the right moment, and here we go, cash them in. They don't. The only way that they do something for Watson is if Pace and Nagy say, to hell with it. We're just going to light this world on fire, and if we go down with this, we're going to go down fighting, liquefy all our assets and bring it in and bring in Deshaun Watson. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. So I would also turn to you guys. I've just eliminated Watson. I've eliminated Foles and Trubisky. So it's some rookie starter of which they don't have the pick to make either. Or it's one of these guys who is going to be out there like, shoot, I don't know, Sam Darnold, or they say that Garoppolo might be available. It's like, it's one of these middle tier guys who might be looking for a new team. And I don't know who it is. I will take you guys into the produce section with me. I don't know.
Well, Kyle, I'll tell you two cities that I have my eye on.
What do you got?
One is San Francisco, which is what you just brought up with Garoppolo, because they seem pretty motivated to upgrade there. And if they do, you'd think Garoppolo's available. We can make this whole conversation Chicago because he's a Rolling Meadows, Arlington Heights guy. Yeah. And then the other situation, too, is Philadelphia, because, I mean, it seems like they're going to stick with Wentz, but what if that changes? And if they do, I don't know, does Jalen Hurts become available for any reason? Those are just two cities I'm watching. Maybe one of those quarterbacks spring free, and it makes sense for the Bears.
See, this is where we're at, and this is how paralyzing this is. We're grasping, and not at like, who's going to be the starting left tackle or who's going to do the quarterback. We don't know. And I'll tell you this. I know some people with the 49ers, a little bit, casual relations. I don't think this Kirk Cousins to the San Francisco thing is going to happen. I think it is all rumors, and I don't think they're doing it. I really don't. Like, I'm not going to tweet that as breaking news, but the impression that I get from them is people are saying, well, Cousins and Shanahan reunited. I think they love each other, but I don't think it's happening. I also don't think the Eagles are getting rid of either guy. I mean, they hired that guy to keep Carson Wentz. That front office loves Carson Wentz. And Jalen Hurts is too raw and too promising. So, like, you see what I'm saying? Now we're back to ground zero. So who is it? I don't think it's Garoppolo. I don't think it's the Eagles. I don't know who it is. And I'm supposed to come out and have answers for you guys. But instead, I just have empathy in that we're trying to cover the Bears and we have no clue who's going to be.
And there's competition, too. Like, you look at the Colts. They have one of those win-now rosters right now. They just saw their veteran quarterback and Phillip Rivers retire. The competition is going to drive up the price for Watson. I don't know if the Colts can acquire him within division there. Okay. But these teams with these win-now records, like the Rams, they're built to win now. They just needed an upgraded quarterback. They're going to drive up the price on these guys. Maybe it's Dak Prescott. You never know what happens with the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe some way he finds a way out of there. But this competition, if I'm the Bears, like, how do you keep up with all these teams like the Jets when they don't have a quarterback and they have all these picks and all this free agency space? Like, how do you compete with these teams that need quarterbacks too, just like you?
And it's also, like, who would we want? Like, who fires us up? For example, Deshaun Watson goes to Miami, and through some chain of events, Tua Tagovailoa is available. Do you want him? I don't know. I'm not that impressed. In some magical world, would you want Jared Goff as the Bears franchise quarterback? Probably not. I remember a couple of years ago when it was like, hey, maybe we can get Cam Newton. Like, that would have worked out terribly. So Dak Prescott, all right, so we want to pay him $35 million a year to lose in the wild card round? I don't know. You know who I want? I want Rodgers. I want Aaron Rodgers to be the Bears quarterback. And it's never going to bleep and happen. They will never over his dead body and the Packers. So it's not going to be him. And yet I'm still just chasing my tail on who it's going to be.
What a transition, because I was going to ask you about number 12 next, because you had an outstanding podcast with Aaron Rodgers in 2020 on the 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt podcast. And so many of the things that popped up in that podcast, and one of the things I just loved about Rodgers this whole season, whether it was with you or Pat McAfee or even in his press conferences, he was as raw and honest as he's ever been in his career, and really that we ever hear from NFL players. So I just wanted to ask you about what you saw last week, knowing that you have your conversation with Rodgers back. That was like late summer, right? In the background, it doesn't sound like they're going to trade him, but that doesn't necessarily solve whatever his personal feelings are right now.
Yeah, my reaction to what Rodgers said after losing the title game was I was not surprised. I think like a lot of people were caught off guard. But he even doubled back and said, listen, it's not something I haven't said before, the uncertainty about the future. The conversation you're talking about with he and I back last summer when he sat down with a bucket of scotch and we just talked for an hour and a half, his whole bottom line was, I'm not going to be on the Packers someday. Like, I know they're going to move on from me. I will play for another team. And he's had certainty about that from the second they made the first round pick, because the Packers have one of two things to do, and both of them are ludicrous. You decide to willingly move on from Aaron Rodgers, or you just never play your first-round draft pick. Neither one of them make any sense at all. So Rodgers has always had it in his mind that he knows what time it is, and that the second, he gets an injury or he has a rough few weeks, that they're going to say, maybe it's time to start the future. I don't think that'll be this fall, but maybe the next fall after that. Yeah. So I sat there knowing him a little bit and having contact with him a little bit, like, he's incapable of cliche. He's incapable of lying. He talks in this unbelievably candid, thoughtful way in every single media session. And when they said, how you feeling? He said, look, I don't know if I'm going to be here. I would only say the Packers should say to him, what's the plan here? What is the plan with Jordan Love? Are you guys want to give me one more year? Do you want next year to start working him? I think the Packers owe it to him to say what their vision is for how they want to involve Jordan Love in the team, because they not only spent a first-round pick, guys, they moved up to draft him. They loved Jordan Love. I mean, it was perfect. Even the guy's name is Love. That's how much they were into it. I think they owe him an explanation for that.
Could you imagine if he actually becomes available in a couple of years and the Bears, well, they'll likely be in the same situation, right? Because it's the Bears. They're always looking for a quarterback. And it would be the greatest heel turn, wouldn't it? I mean, Brett Favre at one point played for the Vikings, so everything's possible within the division, I would say. But the heel turn, that would be for Aaron Rodgers to go from Green Bay to Chicago. That'd be quite something.
Well, yeah, you need that one buffer year like Favre had with the Jets to separate. So you need Rodgers to go and, I don't know, play for the Colts for a year and then decide that he wants to go to the Bears. I asked him, I said, all right, so Aaron, when you're lying in your bed late at night and you've had a few scotches and your mind is wandering and you're thinking about the idea that you could sometime be with another team in the NFL, how do you look in a Bears uniform? And he just laughed, like almost dismissively, but also like kind of bemused. He's like, yeah, well, we've had a lot of good times up there at Soldier Field. I'm like, of course you have, you jerk. Every time you come there, you burn the place down.
But he said that's one of his favorite places to play. And I'm not going to pretend like I know Aaron Rodgers, but I just get the feeling with his competitiveness, if it ever did get to that point where he had the freedom to pick teams and where he's going to go, I think he would absolutely consider that. Well,
he's really good at talking about the Bears. Listen, he gets into this mode at twice a year, sometimes 3 times, where he's like, oh, this great rivalry, it just means so much. And, I've had some great battles with those guys over the years. And I'm thinking, like, you have? Like, I don't really remember very many great battles. And he's, the Urlacher and Briggs. I'm like, yeah, you beat them almost every time. And these young guys now, no, you beat them every time. And Of course, he loves playing at Soldier Field. I love going to the day spa because I love getting my scalp massaged. That's my favorite place to play, too. That's why he loves Soldier Field. He practically owns the place. I'm sorry, but these are just facts. Like, they need to beat the guy, and they rarely do.
I wanted to ask you about your angry runs segment.
Okay.
I love it. And, growing up in Chicago, we've seen a lot of angry runs and whatnot from Walter Payton, even to David Montgomery. There it is.
I got the scepter. I got my own home scepter, kids. You can own one, too.
What was the run like when you're coming up with the idea for angry runs? Like, what was the run that you always had in mind? Is it Mike Allstott, another Chicago area guy? Allstott up the gut. Like, what was the run that prompted this segment to come to fruition? And then like had to have Cole Kmet in it. Like, what was that like?
Well, thank you for the question. And for anybody wondering what the hell I'm holding in my hand, if you haven't seen the segment, this is the Angry Run scepter. It's an actual scepter. It changes colors. And every single week we mail one of them to whoever had the most fierce, dominating run in the league. And as you mentioned, Cole Kmet won one, and then Montgomery was nominated a few times. Listen, I grew up, my favorite running backs growing up, when I was really young, it was Peyton. But then those guys you mentioned, Mike Allstott from Joliet Catholic and going to Purdue. I loved Jerome Bettis when he was at Notre Dame. My dad's an Irish alum. He went to Fenwick, and then he went to Notre Dame. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s going to Notre Dame games. So I love Ricky Waters and Reggie Brooks and Rodney Culver. But Jerome Bettis, number 6, was my favorite. I loved the big guys. And so once I got to doing the NFL, I honestly think the one that really started, Mark Ingram, when he was with the Saints, used to always be really pissed off when he would run people over. And then I think the sort of let it be of angry runs is the Marshawn Beast Mode run against the Saints in the playoffs. And I'm like, we need to collect these as a species. Because there was a thing when I was growing up, there was a video that the NFL used to sell called NFL Rocks. And it was just NFL highlights to like corny Bon Jovi and Elton John songs. But it was just like guys getting their helmet blasted off their head and getting backflipped and just hits. And, growing up, you guys remember there used to be the jacked up segment when Tom Jackson and Chris Berman, he got jacked up. And they had to eliminate that because appropriately for sensitivity. I feel like, jacked up walked so angry runs could run. And I owe them a lot of the encouragement.
Love it. So the last thing we have to settle here. Now, when I was growing up in Lincoln Park in Chicago, and I went to somewhat of a commuter high school, and there would be kids from Hinsdale and Lincolnshire, and they'd say, I'm from Chicago. No, and I'd be that guy. You're not from Chicago. You're from the suburbs. So now I'm a suburbanite, and if I'm traveling and someone says, hey, where are you from? Of course, I say Chicago. I've become now that guy. So what did you say when people asked you?
Oh, man, you city guys are just so cool. Man, you're just so legit, and we're so soft. Never mind, the entire Bears organization is in Lake Forest, of all places, but we'll ignore that. Listen, if I'm traveling, back when we used to travel, and I'm in California or I'm on vacation, and someone comes up to me next to me at the tiki bar and says, oh, hey, yeah, where are you from? I'm not going to say, well, I'm from the north suburbs of Chicago in the northern region of Illinois, just south of Wisconsin. I'm from bleeping Chicago. I'm not going to split hairs because of some elitist, snobbish mentality of people who were born in this. I didn't choose to live where I was born. I was born in Hinsdale, lived in Indian Head Park for a while, then Lincolnshire. Now my mother lived in Lake Bluff. Now she moved to the city. Long story short, Chicago land, if I'm being generous, but then you sound like you're from a theme park to someone who doesn't know what that is. From Chicago, and if you really want to look down on me because I rep the 847, that's fine. I'm more than willing to rep the 847, but I am from Chicago, just as the Bears are. The pride and joy of Illinois.
I think there's 5 Illinois kids in the Super Bowl this year. Scotty Miller, he's not from the city. He's from Barrington.
That's
Cameron
cool.
Brate from Naperville. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Chicago suburbs might be well represented in the Super Bowl. So quickly, who do you like in this one? What, Bucks or Chiefs?
It's just like it's just this 2 questions. You look at this game and you're like, oh, come on, how could you possibly bet against Tom Brady? And then you're like, well, hold on, how could you possibly bet against Patrick Mahomes? You have to pick against one of these quarterbacks. And I'm really conflicted about it. I think it's one of the harder games to pick, but when it makes it easier is when I realize that Mahomes just really doesn't lose games. It's very, very rare that he ever loses a football game. He's lost 9 in his career. And there's no way I'm picking against Mahomes. Maybe Tom Brady gets a 7th ring, but I think Mahomes gets a 2nd.
That's pretty much how I feel too. It's just so hard to go. He's just so good.
I know.
So good. Yeah.
I know.
Kyle, thanks so much. This was awesome. We're big fans. During the season, Good Morning Football is on in my office every morning as I'm grinding or whatever. It's always on. It's the best way to keep track of what's going on in the mornings and have fun. You guys always manage to have fun. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Adam, thank you for having me. It's fun to talk Bears. It's fun to talk Six Flags. I'm going to send you guys some of those early 90s airbrushed Six Flags shirts that you could buy with your girlfriend, or a caricature of the two of you for $50 or something. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Kyle.
It is scary how accurate those Six Flags references were, down to the caricatures at the end. You remember those things?
I do.
You just sit there and they draw you up. And
I'm glad he brought up the demon, because when we started describing the Bears season, I'm like, oh, the demon. like this season was like a demon for the Bears, just in terms of how crazy it was.
Yeah. Nice little climb at the start, couple loops.
That shockwave.
Corkscrew. The shockwave, man, that'll mess you up.
Hurt your neck,
Yeah.
like you said.
And, you know, I should have kept going with the Chicago suburbs thing. But the thing was, when you were from the city and you said, and you were somewhere on vacation and they ask you, where are you from? You'd say Chicago. And then they'd be like, what suburb? And you'd have to be like, no, I'm from Chicago. That's why it became a thing. That's why it became annoying for somebody who lived in the city.
Well, you did. I'm very glad that you caught yourself and said that you moved. So you started off the conversation by saying you left the city.
I know, I have grown up.
Your toughness meter has increased, yeah.
Yeah, now I'm as tough as Kyle Brandt.
Good company, I guess.
That was an outstanding interview. We appreciate Kyle for all. He brings it to those interviews, and I always appreciate guys taking that type of effort. So great stuff today. Also appreciate Bilal Nichols. Fun having some defensive talk. You know, we're going to talk about quarterbacks forever.
It's a long week.
If we're being honest, it's a long year. It's going to be a long offseason.
They still need one.
But yes, it's a long week. And we got plenty more coming this week, 3 more days of loaded content for you. And not only here on the Hoge Jahns podcast, also on Under Center on NBC Sports Chicago. It's been a lot of fun. You can check out the YouTube pages, the My Teams app. If you haven't been watching, you should be. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See ya.